Hello and welcome to the Comedy and Custody Podcast. I'm Nebulous Niang,
And I'm Sasha Frank.
and it's comedy because we are both stand-up comedians.
And it's custody because we are both single mums. Hi, guys.
Hello.
Hello. So something really exciting is happening.
Yeah. Thank you so much for listening.
Yes.
Our audience has been growing, and we are very excited because some questions have been coming in, and we thought that
Yeah.
today we could answer one of the questions that our listener had for us.
Yes, we're going to do that. So super exciting that you guys have started to send us in questions. Please keep doing it.
Yes.
I'm going to read it because we've not memorized off by heart all the questions, but we had a question from one of our listeners, comedian herself, Paula Jane Newman, and she had this thought about how bachelor is kind of seen, and I'm kind of reading this as kind of cool, and it's a bachelor, it's very suave, but the word spinster is seen as a negative thing, and why is a self-sufficient woman still centuries and centuries on still seen as a bad thing? And we thought this was really interesting. So if you asked us a question and we haven't answered it yet, we will come to it. This is just the first one we're going to answer. So interesting, this concept.
Yes.
Because here's my argument, right? And maybe this is very specific to me. The word spinster, I agree, is seen as a negative. But the concept of being a single, unmarried, independent woman, I think, is viewed as a good thing in this day and age.
Right now, for sure.
Yeah, because interestingly, she was saying that in her question, spinster didn't actually used to be like a bad word. Spinster used to mean it was like a community of women who were, I think, between 25 and 29.
Who were self-sufficient.
Yeah.
Which is like basically lesbians, right?
Yeah. Well, yes, exactly. We're not single though. Most lesbians are not generally single.
I feel
interestingly,
even the concept of like single in this context doesn't even matter for lesbians, because there's maybe back then or whatever. Right?
Yeah.
Well, now things would be different.
Yes.
But yeah, it sounds like heaven on earth to be a spinster.
Right. I mean, I do see it, but I think that this progression is quite recent. Like, I definitely think, when I was a kid, I wouldn't say that, the people I knew who didn't have a husband and kids, it wasn't a bad thing, but it was certainly a different thing. It was different from the norm.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I think about this a lot when I think about like the assumptions I made. I'm 40, so my childhood was, 30-ish years ago. But even like, I remember going into work probably 10 years ago, right? And this lady, and I was married at the time, I had a child, and I lived this very like normal life that was expected of me, which of course since got divorced, etc. And this lady came into work and she was pregnant. She announced her pregnancy, and I remember saying, "Oh my gosh, I didn't even know you were married." And she looked horrified, and rightly so. I reflect on this so often, and I hate myself that I said it. Was so dumb and immature. I was like, I was an adult woman, but my first thought,
Yeah, no, but it's also not entirely your fault. It's
Yeah.
like the conditioning of society. Because
Right?
like, how did she share it? Like in that tone? Like, did she share it in any kind of
Oh, I can't remember.
not guilty, but like shameful tone?
I can't. No, not at all. It was a pregnancy
She was like
announcement.
fully in the spinster commune, and then you came along with like the heteronormative stuff.
Right? And I feel so bad now. And she's such a kick-ass single mum. And of course, I'm now a kick-ass single mum. So, and if who knows what's going to happen in my future. So I think that like you definitely is a little bit of society conditioning.
Well, okay, and you know what? For me, what is surprising is were you in like the UK at the time?
No, I was here.
Oh, you were
so it wasn't
here.
quite 10 years. It was probably 9 years ago.
Right.
Yeah.
No, so I was just wondering if it's a universal thing, or like in some cultures it's more conservative than others.
Well, I mean, I've at that point and still now I had a very British mindset. I'd just come from the UK, so I think it's global. I think now, I'm trying to think about my mum's attitude, or like, I mean, my mum would never look down on someone that's single. My mum's been divorced herself, so yeah, it's an interesting one.
I feel like I've never had that kind of personal stigma, but maybe for the older generation they feel it. So like, for example, if my aunties did not get married, or like people of that generation who did not get married, they probably feel it themselves, because
Yes.
when I hear them talking about talking about it, say in a work environment, they'll be like asking a lot about my husband and my kids, and then it almost feels like when I ask them back about their lives, sometimes it can feel like they feel like, oh, there's nothing much to talk about me. I don't have a husband and I don't have kids.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but that's, I mean, I don't feel
Yeah.
that way about you, but they probably felt it enough from
Of
like other
course.
people
Yeah.
in their generation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. When in fact, I'd much rather hear about people's careers and hobbies and friends than I would about their husband and kids. No offense to anyone with husband and kids, but you know,
I mean, everything
yeah,
is valid.
everything
So they
is
shouldn't
part
have
of
to
who
feel
you
that
are.
way.
Absolutely not. I mean, I get asked all the time, especially because I have a child, like maybe you do as well, in a grab all the time. Where's your husband? Your husband's at home?
They say that
all the time. Where's your husband? Your husband's back in the UK? No husband.
And how
I
do
don't
they
know.
respond when you say that?
What? No husband? Always.
I like how you're actually making conversation.
Yeah.
Do you not just? I thought everyone just like lied to taxi drivers.
No, I'm too honest. No.
Oh my
I'm very
God.
proud of my single parent status. So I'm like,
Right. That's another cultural difference.
Yeah, I mean that's
Yeah.
more. Well, I don't know. I remember going back to the UK, and we had like some family photos taken, and this woman said to me like, when I say family photos, me and my sisters had photos taken of all of our kids together. And I remember the photographer saying to me, oh, well, something about like, well, you're going to come back with your husband, or do you want some of you and your husband, or something like that, something. And she was so horrified because I was like, no, I'm divorced. And I remember her saying to me, I am so sorry. She was like, I'm a female business owner. I cannot believe I've just said that to you.
No, but that's another thing I resonate, because sometimes when you share that you're divorced, because I'm very proud that I'm divorced, and then they act like, oh my God,
I'm so sorry.
So sorry.
Yes, yeah.
But like, why? I'm like, no, don't be sorry.
Yeah.
I am very happy.
Yeah, no. I'm like, oh God, no, I couldn't be happy.
It's that same kind of thing, I guess.
Yeah, I know. And now, because I have a boyfriend, and I've written a joke about how like I it's going to spoil the joke if you hear it, but don't ruin it for everybody else. But it's like I talk about how I've because I've been single a while, I've done something a bit embarrassing because I was getting a bit desperate, and I've gone out and got myself a boyfriend. and like, but in a way, like the joke is like, oh, you don't want to admit it to your friends and stuff. So, but now I'm like my friends and I joke like now, because we were all single at one point, and now I think we've mostly all got boyfriends, and we'll be like, oh, you've got a boyfriend now, gross, disgusting, embarrassing, what are you doing? Like, ugh, loser.
There's also, I feel a bit uncomfortable too with like sometimes the narrative, because now the cultural tide has just been in the favor of like, yay, girl empowerment, like hashtag like girl boss, which is good. But also sometimes it feels like it's just become a very empty kind of thing to champion for. By companies.
Interesting, because I kind of get this, because that was my whole identity. Like, and now I'm like, oh, who am I? And I remember I remember talking to another comedian, Nikki, who we had on the podcast, and I can't remember if she said this on the podcast or it was just a chat her and I had, but she said once she got her boyfriend, she was like, oh my God, am I still a comedian? Am I still funny? Because it embodies like who you are as a person, and it was my whole personality. And now I'm like, oh yeah, now I'm writing boyfriend jokes and can't do a show tonight because I'm going for dinner and stuff. So, and it's like it definitely is, because it became such, like you say, not an empty thing, but it becomes a whole thing.
Yeah.
Whereas you get to be a lesbian and you just get to be, that's just cool anyway. Unless you're Gen Z.
No, remember, I'm not a cool lesbian.
You're not a cool lesbian. I do remember you're an uncool lesbian, and your Gen Z don't think lesbians are cool anyway.
No, we do not exist, and it's kind of boring to just like limit yourself to one gender.
It is kind of closed-minded of you to be a lesbian.
It's like very boring.
It's kind of, I would say it's almost borderline homophobic of you that you're a lesbian, I would say. And I just, it's just
hateful. It's abuse.
It is hateful. It's a hate crime.
Probably some form of gaslighting.
You are definitely gaslighting. Oh my God. Like, it's just not the vibe, I would say. It's just not the vibe. But yes, I definitely think it did. Yeah, but I like, of course, female empowerment's amazing.
It is. But sometimes it's just so, sometimes I don't know okay, maybe this is me being a robot lesbian.
Okay.
But I have never really understood like women in the first place, despite like, you know, having the body of a woman.
Yes.
And also not understanding straight women.
Yeah, you do have a woman avatar.
Yeah.
Is that what do they call it? Like a skin, the skin.
Yeah.
Whatever they call it in a computer
avatar,
game.
that's
Avatar.
right. Very good, Sasha.
Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you. I'm becoming a boy.
Yeah, so I don't even feel like personally I grappled with the idea of singlehood, but I do know what it's like to feel like there's only one valid way of being, which I do talk about in my comedy special, Slow-mo-sexual. How many times can I say it on a podcast?
Slow-mo-sexual, go see it, guys. It's amazing. It sells out every time. I don't even know if there's another one coming up, but buy your tickets now anyway.
Yeah, but it, you know, I just growing up, maybe in the 80s, and maybe this is just me, but maybe the way my parents talked about it, it was like when you grow up and you get married.
Oh, yeah,
and
same.
you have children.
Same. So
then,
what do you do with your kids now with this?
Oh, I never say that.
Me too.
Because they'll always come up to me and they'll be like, Mommy, I don't want to get married.
Oh.
Which I know to some people that would be like, that's sad, right?
Yeah.
But I don't see it that way. I'm
Absolutely
just like,
not.
Do not get married if you do not want to get married.
Me too. Because I used to have people say to me a lot, like, be careful, because I was so much into the, I'm a woman, I don't need a man. And they're like, you're almost like pushing your child away from ever wanting to settle down. Because I'm like, we don't need boys. This is a girl's house. Like, you know, gross.
Well, at least she's not a lesbian.
Well, she might be a lesbian. In fact, we're like, you know, one of my best friends is a lesbian. So, but you know, even long before I knew you, like we've been very. I'm going to tell you a story, and I won't mention. Friend? Yeah, of course, it's the Comedy and Custody Best Friend podcast. So I will tell you a story, and I won't mention who this was. But my cousin is gay, and she and her wife, they have an amazing child. I think I've mentioned before on the podcast, and we're very close with them. And Grace was bridesmaid at their wedding. So Grace was, you know, just brought up that this was normal. And I'm, you know, of course, very liberal, and, you know, always wanted her to know you can marry a man, you can marry a woman, you can, you know, marry someone who's not sure of their, you know, their gender identity, whatever, or don't marry anyone, you know, whatever you like, as long as you're happy. And my cousin was getting married, and Grace was bridesmaids, and it was quite a lot of years ago. And someone in the family said something, this person's not homophobic, but just older and just a little bit looser with what they say and what they joke about, you know. And I can't remember what the comment was. And Grace it was probably like 3 years ago now, so she was younger, and she turned around and went, but if that's how you feel, I suggest you don't come to the wedding.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And the comment wasn't even about the couple. It was just like, she just picked up on that was a comment about homosexuality. And again, not by someone who's homosexual, but just an old-fashioned, inappropriate joke. And she was like, well, that's a joke about homosexuality. I'm going to be bridesmaid at my cousin's wedding, who is gay, and this is the comment I'm going to make. And it was my proudest moment. I was like, oh my gosh, she's really like got the mess.
No, she's a good one. She's
so proud.
And I think this is how kids should be.
Yeah.
Because, you know, people like to kind of put down the current generation. Yes. But like in all honesty, yes, there's a lot of like shitty things. But there are always a lot of shitty things about every generation. And I think like the way that they're being taught is very healthy. Although it irritates everybody else. Because we never got to benefit from that.
I love the way that Gen Z are with this stuff. I remember, so when Grace was born, I had a friend who'd had a baby around the same time, and she was a teacher. And I remember her saying, so would have been like 12 going on 13 years ago. She was saying that now if a kid in the class comes out as gay, it's just nothing.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, oh my God, this is such amazing progress. She's like, it's not a thing. Their friends are just like, all right, cool.
There's nothing to come out.
Yeah, there's nothing.
And but the default setting is nothing is chosen.
Yes.
Right? Like there's nothing has been pre-selected.
Yeah. So it's just, you just are.
Whichever. I love that. I honestly love that.
So do I, because it's just, I mean, you know, when I went to school, first of all, nobody that we knew of was gay. And then when people did come out, although it was few and far between, it was a real shock. And it was definitely after we left school. And, you know, and I know that was my cousin's experience as well. Certainly, I don't know if it was yours, you know, obviously it was yours because you got married and then came out, of course. But I love that that's not the case now, or at least not in the UK. I mean, I don't know about Singapore.
Well, I think there's still quite a few like conservative Singaporeans. But I do think things are changing for the better. Even even between us and
Mm.
because we're millennials, right? But
Yeah.
even between us and Gen X, there's like that progress.
Yes.
And then what more so with like the Gen Zs? Wait, Gen Zs? Are they
Gen
Gen
Z is the
Zs and
next
us?
ones. Yeah.
Because I remember um well, not even talking about like gay people, but like
Mm.
trans people.
Yes.
You know, they used to have the most horrible terms for like trans
Awful.
people,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say here. But it was just like, well, maybe it's just my family, but it was always just bandied about for like no reason.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know that these were like people. I remember a really huge revelation for me because when I was maybe about 13, I did this like comic and I would
Mm.
upload it to the internet. And because of the internet back then, it was a better place. You know, I would get people reaching out who were my readers from like the US or like the UK.
Yeah.
And so I remember, you know, having a nice, you know, chat with one of the people who like my comics. And then I went to their website, that was so fancy websites. And then I found out this person was trans. And I remember having so much cognitive dissonance because I'd been fed so much negative stuff about trans
Yeah.
people, basically dehumanizing them. And then to
Wow.
find out that this person who I got along so well
Yeah.
with was trans, it just literally was a complete like, you know, a cog got thrown into
Yeah.
the and I remember it was such a visceral reaction, like how could this be true? Like
Yeah.
and that's how poisonous this kind of conditioning can be.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not even done in a very intentional way.
Yeah.
So that was one of the big moments of my life when I realized like, hey, it doesn't even matter. So luckily I chose
Yeah.
the right path. But I'm just thinking like this would be unimaginable today.
Oh, right? Yeah. I mean,
Yeah. So
it's
I honestly have a lot of hope for our kids'
I do,
generation.
and that is my favorite thing about that next generation, you know, and I think, and I also think it's a little bit counter now the generation to the whole Instagram culture. I know that there's maybe I'm a bit naive, but if nothing else, I don't think that, you know, the problems with like Instagram culture and comparing yourself to people you see online, I see that fading away a bit as well. Certainly like the stuff that I see online where it's like really hot women and you feel like you have to live up to that. I think they're targeted at me. They're not targeted at they're not targeted at teenagers. They're making me feel like crap.
You are correct.
Yeah, right?
Yeah,
I
you
mean,
are
they're not
correct.
making the 20-year-olds feel like crap because the 20-year-olds are conditioned not to care so much.
Yeah, no, and even watching TikTok,
Yeah.
seeing people with all different, you know, ethnicities and like even abilities and just countries and the way they speak English or like different languages, it's I mean, I know the way the kids do it, it just looks like they're doom scrolling, which I'm not saying that you shouldn't do
I love doom scrolling. That's what I was doing before you got here. It's my favorite. It's my favorite exercise.
But you know, it's actual cultural immersion. I mean, yes, a lot of it is crap, but like there's the part which you actually learn
Yeah.
something. And it's quite amazing because I sometimes when I'm judging these videos, I'm coming from that old mindset. I'm like, you have to speak English properly. This
Yeah.
is not how to speak English. But who told me that?
Well, exactly. I love the way language develops.
Yeah.
I'm really fascinated by it. And
Yeah.
I like some people are like, oh, they're not sort of saying the words properly. I love it. Like it's so like so. My daughter came to me this week, and we don't talk about this stuff a lot. But she was like, I've written a list of like Gen Z and Gen is it Alpha?
Uh-huh.
Gen Alpha words. Let's see.
You've written
She
a
wrote a
list. Oh,
list, and
she's
she was like, "Let's
educating
see
you.
if you know what they mean."
Oh.
And this was my first foray into this because I thought of you and your kids because I know you talk about this a lot more, but we've never talked about it before. And she was like, "Do you know what? I wish I still had the list. I might get her to send it to me." But like, if you think about Rizz, they talk about Rizz, which is short for charisma. Like, it makes total sense. I didn't know that until she told me.
Do you have Rizz, Sasha?
I like to think I have
think you
Rizz.
do,
I might be a
right?
bit of an annoying Rizz, but it's yeah. If you catch me at the right moment, it's less and less as I get older. Not sure why I decided that was a point to take a sip of my cold coffee. But yeah, so some of the words I knew, and some of the words I was like, I don't know what this means, and she's
Tell
like,
me.
I can't remember them. I wish I could, but
You
like
haven't revised.
but like she would say something, and then I'd be like, well, what does that one mean? And she's like, oh, it doesn't really mean anything. It just kind of is. And I'm like, okay, cool. So
Sometimes
yeah.
they tell me that it's not cool to explain.
Oh well, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
I mean, okay.
Yeah, I love it. It's just amazing. And until I will need an explanation out of Grace, and then I'll be like, oh, no, explain.
Oh, but then
That's a-
sometimes when I understand and I use it, they get upset at me.
Oh,
That oh, mummy, you're trying so hard.
don't try. That is embarrassing.
That is embarrassing.
I don't know.
I mean, this whole podcast is us trying hard.
We are trying way too hard. I know. We're just here, just feeding you our Rizz and our vibes, and I can't remember anything else.
Skibidi.
Skibidi was on the list. That was
so
the
what
one.
was Skibidi?
I said, "What does Skibidi mean?" And she was like, "Oh, it doesn't really mean anything."
But is it a positive thing or a negative thing? You don't know.
I don't know. It's to do with the toilet,
yeah,
I believe, but I don't know.
It goes together.
Is it an adjective?
I don't know. Why are you asking?
Please tell us if you know. Obviously, we can ask our
children. Please like and subscribe and drop a note in the comments.
Yeah, what does Skibidi actually... Is Skibidi an adjective? That's what I want to know. Is it a verb? Is the toilet skibbidying? Is it looking a bit skibbity?
You're trying too hard, Sasha.
I am trying. I'm really trying hard. I really am. So,
so have we answered Paula's question?
Have we answered Paula's question?
What was Paula's question?
Unless her question was, what is Skibidi? Which we also haven't answered. No, okay, so is why is it being a woman still seen as a negative thing, or the word spinster?
No, being a self-sufficient
woman, why does it still have negative connotations? I mean, I would say partly
because the older people haven't died.
Yeah, it's the patriarchy is my answer.
But that's
I think it's the patriarchy. Answer. Yeah, maybe that's the answer to the Skibidi question.
Skibidi equals patriarchy.
Yeah, but I do think it's that. I mean,
no, I think the patriarchy is Skibidi.
I don't know if I'm ready for that.
And that's the title of the episode.
The patriarchy is Skibidi. It is a bit. Is it Skibidi or is it skibbidying? Is it looking very skibbity? I don't know.
It is the Skibidi.
It is the Skibidi. Oh, it's gosh. Oh, wow. We've only got a few minutes left. That's such a good note to end on. But I do think it's that women are naturally supposed to be the nurturers. To be a nurturer, you have to have a child.
I think we're naturally quite self-sufficient, unless told otherwise.
Yeah, I think naturally we are, but I think we are expected, going back thousands of years, to nurture a child, by which would mean you have to have a man so you can have a child.
Because a man hunts and kills the animals and brings them to you.
Yes, and provides.
But now we have Grab.
We do have Grab.
We have Grab food.
We do have Grab
Eats.
Food. So all we really need now is Grab sperm, and then we're done.
I do not want to Grab sperm.
No, please don't. Imagine the reviews. Oh my gosh. Arrived too quickly. Oh, that might make it into a joke. I want to see
the profile pictures on Grab sperm.
Grab sperm.
Because now the Grab driver profile pictures are the worst pictures in the world. It's always just some old Chinese guy
Oh, that's brilliant. And we run out of time.
I'm happy we've run out of time.
I apologise, Paula, my love, that we've gone so off track with your question, but we would love to have more questions. We cannot promise to answer them in any intelligent way, as demonstrated on today's episode of the Comedy and Custody podcast. I have been Sasha Frank.
And I've been Nebulous Nyang.
Have a great one.
See ya.